And thanks to you at home for staying with us for the next hour. Before this year, 2012, in the modern history of American politics, there had never before been a presidential nominating contest that was reversed after the fact, where a state declared that candidate X was the winner of that state, and then that state changed their mind. Before this year in Iowa, that had never happened before. Now it may have happened twice. Hey, Beltway Media, over here. This is not a Ron Paul conspiracy theory. I neither want to end the Fed nor discuss the arcane and hypothetical math of delegate allocation. The Ron Paul candidacy is not what this story is about. I don't think it's about any particular candidate. But I think that Republicans in the state of Maine may end up having to withdraw their declaration that Mitt Romney won the state of Maine, the same way that Republicans had to do in Iowa just last month. Remember, what happened in Iowa was that on the night of the caucuses, we all stayed up until what felt like dawn, waiting for the Iowa Republican Party to report its results. And then at 2:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the chairman of the Iowa Republican Party said there was finally a result.
I can report, with 1,770 precincts reporting, Governor Mitt Romney received 30,015 votes. Senator Rick Santorum received 30,007 votes. Congratulations to Governor Mitt Romney, winner of the 2012 Iowa caucuses.
So on caucus night in Iowa, the Iowa Republican Party chairman says Mitt Romney won by 8 votes out of more than 120,000 cast. There was no provision for a recount in the Iowa caucuses, even with a result that close, but the Republican Party of Iowa said that was the result, and they said they would certify it and make it official within 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, the Iowa Republican Party said they still didn't have an official certified results. And then once they had gone past their own self-imposed deadline, the state party chairman made a new statement and said, actually, it turns out Iowa was a tie. Or maybe nobody knows who won Iowa this year. Then the chairman went on somebody's radio show and said, okay, actually, Rick Santorum won. And then the state Republican Party came out with a new line, which was, yes, Rick Santorum won. Not Mitt Romney, like they had said before, and not a tie or who knows, like they had said that morning, but Rick Santorum the winner. The results in Iowa reversed. Rick Santorum won more than 2 weeks after Iowa Republicans actually voted and were told the opposite result. It was crazy, right? What happened in Iowa this year was crazy. That had never before happened in modern American presidential politics. But the impact of that, the effect of that screw-up by the Iowa Republican Party on the overall presidential nominating process, honestly, mostly it just affected Iowa. Frankly, it made it seem like maybe Iowa should not be trusted to be first in the country anymore with all the attention and the money that status brings. It cost the Iowa Republican Party chairman his job. He resigned in disgrace over the Iowa caucuses debacle this year. But in terms of how it affected the race, how it affected who's going to get the Republican nomination for president in 2012, it was already sort of a big deal that Rick Santorum even got that close to Mitt Romney in Iowa. A week later, after Mitt Romney won New Hampshire, the Romney campaign did try to make a big deal out of the fact that Romney had now won Iowa and New Hampshire, which would be unprecedented in Republican politics. It, in fact, would still be an unprecedented accomplishment because still nobody's done it. Mitt Romney did not win Iowa. But had the Iowa result been clear the night of the caucuses, had the Iowa Republican Party not screwed it up, had Rick Santorum been declared the winner that night, I'm not sure that would have had a huge effect on the overall race anyway. I mean, Iowa Republicans are seen as having kind of a Mike Huckabee problem, right? Iowa Republicans pick guys like Mike Huckabee and guys like Rick Santorum, and it has no real effect on the overall race. It's Iowa. It's kind of irrelevant. It's another case for Iowa not going first, at least on the Republican side. So in Iowa, in historical terms, it was amazing that Iowa Republicans screwed up their caucuses so badly they wrongly reported the results and then they had to flip them after the fact. Historically, it is amazing. But in terms of the impact of the race, not so much. Now, though, if another state pulls in Iowa, now that would have a huge impact on the narrative of the race. And therefore, it would have a big impact on who is likely to get the Republican nomination for president. And I think that's where we are right now. Heading into the Maine caucuses this past weekend, Mitt Romney, supposedly the prohibitive frontrunner for the nomination, Mitt Romney had just lost 3 straight races, and not in places where they just pick Huckabees, like Iowa. He lost in Minnesota, which Mitt Romney won in 2008. And not only did he lose Minnesota this time, he lost every single county in the state, and he came in not second, but third in the state. Mitt Romney also in 2008 had cleaned up in Colorado with 60% of the vote there. He had won Colorado in 2008 hugely. This year, he lost Colorado. Mitt Romney was so sure he was going to win Colorado this year that he made sure he was personally in the state of Colorado on the night of the caucuses. His campaign reserved a big room where he could deliver his Colorado victory speech to his supporters.
I can tell you that this room, we talked about this a few moments ago, was not even half full. It has started to fill in a little bit, but guys, I have to tell you, this room is still not completely full. And keep in mind, we're in the city of Denver. This is a large metropolitan area. Outside of the city limits, you have a lot of conservative Republicans, and Mitt Romney is not filling this room tonight.
Mitt Romney not filling this room tonight. Heading into the Maine caucuses, that was the narrative of the race for the Republican nomination for president. Mitt Romney losing Missouri, which didn't really count because Missouri's really screwed up, losing Minnesota really badly, which he really should have won, and losing Colorado, which he not only should have won, but where he obviously thought he was going to win, but where ultimately not only did he not win, he couldn't even fill a room. So this was the narrative heading into Maine, right? What's happened to Mitt Romney? How can he be losing gimme states like this? That was the narrative of the overall race coming out of last week. And the next contest was Maine, where if you're Mitt Romney, there is a real risk that that narrative about you being an unexpected loser, that narrative is not only going to continue, it's going to get worse.
There's some other good news, too, and it's an ongoing caucus, and it's over on the East Coast. I think it's the state called Maine.
Whatever you think about the Ron Paul campaign and its tactics and its prospects, its goals, the Ron Paul campaign has resources, and they have taken Maine very seriously. And the prospect that Mitt Romney might lose in Maine to Ron Paul would be a devastating next chapter in what was the bad Romney narrative heading into Maine. The bad Romney narrative that he wasn't winning in places that he ought to be winning. Mitt Romney really had to win Maine. And the Republican Party in Maine this weekend said that he did. I don't think he did. I'm not saying that somebody else won. I'm saying that there is no rational and mathematical basis on which the Maine Republican Party can have concluded that Mitt Romney won there. The results there are not complete yet, and the margin of victory for Mitt Romney is really slim. And when you have incomplete results and a really slim margin, that means you're not supposed to call it until you know all of the results. Ask Iowa. Here's a microcosm of the problem. This is what happened in Waldo County, Maine. If you want a picture of where we're talking about, here's the great state of Maine, and here is Waldo County, Maine, right? In Waldo County is a town called Belfast, Maine, as in Northern Ireland, but here in America, Belfast, Maine. Local newspaper there talked to the guy who ran the Republican caucus in the town of Belfast. He told them that he personally called in the town of Belfast's caucus results to the state Republican Party. But when he called the state Republican Party to report how Belfast had voted, the state Republican Party told him over the phone, oh, actually, they already had those numbers. Really? But I'm the guy who's calling you to report what those numbers are. You say you already have numbers? What do you have? Quoting from the local paper, when the woman on the phone read those tallies back, the Belfast chairman said they showed Romney winning in Belfast, which he knew was not the case. Mitt Romney did not win Belfast. Ron Paul won Belfast, but the state Republican Party planned to give Belfast to Mitt Romney anyway. When Belfast complained about that, the Belfast chairman was told by the state party, quote, oh, I'll be sure those numbers are changed. So, did the final tally from Belfast, Maine show Ron Paul winning Belfast, which in fact Belfast says is what happened? No, the numbers did not say that. Here's what they showed. 0. As in 0 votes cast for anybody. And it's not like, oh, that's what they showed that night at the caucuses erroneously, but it's been resolved since. Now they have the real tally. No, this is still what it says, according to the state Republican Party. And it's not just Belfast. 17 of the 18 towns that caucused together in Waldo County turned up blank on the official Maine Republican Party tallies. The state Republican Party has no explanation of why that is, other than to say it was maybe a clerical error. A clerical error they have not corrected. We contacted the Maine Republican Party again today to find out why almost an entire county had their votes erased with essentially no explanation of why. We again have heard nothing back from Maine Republicans. Washington County, up in the northeast part of the state, says that they notified the state Republican Party that they were going to hold their caucuses a week late because of an expected snowstorm. They say they were told by the state party that would not affect their vote being counted by the state party. Now they're being told that no matter how they vote this upcoming weekend, it's a done deal. Their vote's not going to be counted no matter what it is. The town of Waterville, Maine, in Kennebec County, they voted for Ron Paul over Mitt Romney as well. And yet they, too, are recorded as a 0 in the Republican Party's official results from the state. Again, the margin of victory for Mitt Romney in Maine is only reported to be 194 votes. These anecdotal local precinct screw-ups are exactly the kinds of things that were reported in Iowa after Iowa declared that Mitt Romney was the winner there. And remember, the Iowa Republican Party chairman at the time dismissed all of those reports and said, those little typos won't change the outcome of Iowa's vote. Ultimately, the outcome of Iowa's vote was affected by those discrepancies, and Iowa had to reverse its results, and the Republican Party chairman in Iowa is now out of a job. So far in Maine, specifically on that issue of Washington County not having their votes counted at all, Maine's state Republican Party chairman, his line on that is that it's, quote, inconceivable that Washington County could have any effect on his declaration that Mitt Romney won the state of Maine. But it doesn't look like Mitt Romney won the state of Maine. It doesn't look like somebody else won it either at this point. But the idea that Maine Republicans went and voted and had their votes counted and now we have a result, that is not the case. The results are not in. And Maine Republicans, at least some of them, are mad about it. We are trying to get one of the Republican county chairmen on this show tomorrow night for the interview. It's a little hard to get a camera up there, but we're working on it. In the meantime, after 3 straight losses heading into Maine, knowing that another Mitt Romney loss in Maine would have dramatically affected the narrative of 2012 politics for the whole country right now, the rest of us looking at this, the rest of us are left to look at this disaster the Maine Republican Party has pulled off, and we're left to wonder if this was rigged, if this was just a fiasco, and we're left to wonder how long they are going to wait before they actually sort this out. Joining us now is Bill Nemetz. He's a columnist for the Portland Press-Herald and the Maine Sunday Telegram. He's been following Maine state politics for more than 30 years. Mr. Nemetz, thank you very much for your time tonight. We're happy to have you here.
Nice to be here, Rachel.